trauma rotation committee. So still pretty active in trauma. Y'all realize that trauma and emergency medicine are different? Do you have any idea of our trauma system, what we have here in the state? A little bit, no. So, you know, trauma is pretty dear and near to my heart. It's kind of crazy the lack of resources that our state has for the trauma injured patients. And we'll kind of get there. So facts about trauma. Trauma is the #1 cause of death for Americans between the age of 1 and 46. Okay? The #3 cause of death overall. Each year, trauma accounts for 41 million ER visits and 2 million hospital admissions, and accounts for 30% of all years' lives lost. Okay, that's more than for heart disease, HIV, etc. Each year, more than 192,000 people lose their lives secondary to trauma. So these are kinds of numbers that are just kind of astounding. 30% of all life years lost. Okay, cancer accounts for 16%, heart disease 12%, and it's just, to me, it's just amazing. Economic burden, $671 billion per year. Over 192 deaths annually secondary to trauma. So like we talked about here, #1 for age group 1 to 46. #3 is leading cause of death overall amongst all age groups. Burns. Burns is a big thing, okay? We have a pediatric burn patient in Oklahoma City. Up until this year, where we send them? Wichita or Dallas, okay? Or Tulsa, but kind of a different other story. We'll get there in a minute. We're actually in the process of right now of establishing actually I talked to burn director, trying to set up a meeting across the state right now to establish a burn plan, a state burn plan for burn injured patients. One of the problems we had in the past was Baptist is our only burn center here in the city. Until this year, they're really not taking pediatric burn patients. And they're just taking adult. Tulsa and Hillcrest, they actually have an adult and a pediatric burn center. But again, their pediatric burn center isn't kind of world leading. It's there. Right now, I mean, one of the problems we get is you had a patient, even as an adult in the past, that all these burns, they had these trauma issues and injuries. And so Baptist really didn't want to take patients that were critically injured, had a lot of trauma injuries other than simple isolated orthopedic fractures in addition to burn. So if you're a burn patient, you came in, you had a bunch of orthopedic injuries or abdominal injuries and a burn, they weren't interested. We have to ship these people to Dallas, okay? So we're actually in the process of trying to get a burn plan now together for our state to kind of where everybody gets addressed and gets treated appropriately. Falls, each year 2.5 million people are treated in the emergency department for falls, and over 250,000 people are hospitalized annually. And then it talks about 700,000 people are annualized because of fall injury, most often a head injury or hip fractures, that type of stuff. So one of the things, you guys go out and you practice, lots of hospitals have a referral center, okay? So anytime you're transferring a trauma patient, you need to call the TREC line. Lots of times people try to go backdoor and call the ED because they know the people. That's all great and everything, but you're losing data, you're losing the numbers, and it kind of helps derail the process of trying to streamline and get everybody appropriately. So when you're transferring patients to hospitals, use the referral center because it's a recorded line. Sometimes it can help you, okay? If you're getting a fuss about someone accepting a patient or some other issues, the recorded line will help you protect you in the court of law later. There's lots of lawsuits and other things that they go back to recorded data. And so the trauma referral line is a recorded line. They're there to help facilitate getting the patient to the right place. So use the trauma referral. So when trauma patients come in, okay, this is what it looks like. A lot of times there may be 6, 7, 8 people in the room. It may be you and a nurse, okay, and a patient, depending if you're working in rural America or you're working in a trauma center, okay? Their clothes are cut off, okay, you're looking over from head to toe, you're establishing IVs. There's a lot of stuff going on at the same time, okay? How do patients get to the trauma center? 1, air ambulance, okay? 2, ground ambulance, okay? 3, private car. Actually, other one my motorcycle, my wife took this picture one day over classic. Right down the street. Pretty awesome. Okay, people come into the ER like regular people come in. People say full moons. Man, full moons people come out of the woodwork. It's crazy. It's crazy. So full moons and it's real people. What these people look like sometimes. Trauma systems. Back on Dateline, in 1996, there was in trauma, we talked about the golden hour. The golden hour is you have essentially 60 minutes for these critically injured patients to kind of get definitive care. And there was a case on a trauma patient kind of out in eastern Oklahoma, kind of out by Shawnee area. They got diverted from hospital to hospital, and this patient's in an ambulance for about 60 minutes and eventually died, okay? Because they didn't have a facility to take care of them. So it's a big deal, hit the news about Oklahoma's lack of a trauma system. So in 2001, Dr. Roxy Albrecht, who is currently our trauma director, amazing surgeon, amazing lady. Nobody takes care of patients as good as she does. Nobody's well read and studied as she is. She started our trauma center. And the amount, are y'all familiar with JACO? JACO is one of the accreditation organizations for hospitals. You have to meet certain criteria for quality, okay? So the American College of Surgeons is a governing body for trauma centers. You have to have CQI, so continued quality improvement. You have to have so many surgical cases. So we're trying to make sure that every trauma center jumps through this huge process, okay, to get certified every 2 years. And it is a big deal, okay? So it's not just, you can't just say, hell, I want to be a trauma center. You have to have all the resources, you have to have support from hospital administrators, okay, funding purposes, okay? 30% of trauma patients are insured, which means 30%, okay? That stinks, okay? So trauma is largely unreimbursed care, but it's a necessary evil we have to have, okay? So what we wanted was a coordinated system of care for injured patients. You want to get patients to the right facility, have the resources to care for patients in the least amount of time, okay? To reduce morbidity and mortality, okay? Hospital trauma classifications. How many level 1 trauma centers do you think we have in the state of Oklahoma? We have one, okay? Tulsa, so the only one level 1 trauma center we have, as verified by the American College of Surgeons, is William Medical Center, okay? Tulsa has St. John's and St. Francis. They act as level 1s, but they're actually certified as level 2s. Really, the only big difference between a level 2 and a level 1 is academic research and teaching requirements they have to have, okay? So, you know, St. Francis and St. John's do a great job in Tulsa. They alternate even and odd days who's on, so there's no question who's on for trauma that day. So everything goes to the one that's on call that day. Level 2, similar to level 1 facility without teaching or research requirements. Level 3 is a 24/7 physician level provider, the emergency department, general surgery, and orthopedics at all times. And then level 4s essentially have orthopedics, general surgery, okay, and can take care of minor stuff. All of our facilities here in the metro, Mercy, Baptist Integra Southwest, okay, they are level 2 facilities, okay, or level 3, excuse me. What we really need in this state is a full-time level 2, but nobody wants to step up and do that, okay? We'll get there in just a minute. So Oklahoma hospitals by trauma level. Kind of hard deal for y'all to see on the screen. Trauma regions. Every region is broken down into regions. Region 8 here is the metro. Region 6 is kind of a circle around down to Norman. Okay. Region 7 is Tulsa. So really, looking at our state, you're kind of driving down the middle, kind of the line between Tulsa. Everything goes to kind of split the state between Tulsa and Oklahoma City. You know, if you're up north, you can go to Wichita. Wichita's the nearest trauma center. Out to the west, you can go to Amarillo. Out to the east, sometimes we'll go to Fort Smith, Arkansas. And obviously, if you're down in South Oklahoma, obviously Dallas is a huge place to go to. EMS stations, these little dots are places that have EMS stations or helicopter bases. So our regional trauma plan, and actually we're working on this to make some changes to assume that it covers everything. We have new facilities and hospitals that join and start up throughout the city, so we always want to update and change definitions. You believe how many times the definition of a pediatric trauma patient has changed in the last 10 years. It was, do they have pubic hair? Are they 16? You know, it's 18. It's kind of gone all over the place, and currently it's 16. Ensure trauma patients, our goals and our purpose, ensure that trauma patients are stabilized and transported to the closest appropriate hospital facility with available resources and capacity to provide definitive care in a timely fashion. We will support the trauma triage and transport guidelines to effectively reduce trauma morbidity and mortality. We want to match the facility's resources to each trauma patient's needs. The plan will not conflict with the rules and regulations they have in place now. So one of the things is, if you have a patient that has a head bleed, and you're between two hospitals, Do you want to take them to a facility that doesn't have neurosurgery, or do you want to take them to a facility that has neurosurgery? Okay? And so what we want to know is that we get the patient to the closest appropriate facility that has the ability to provide definitive care. Okay? And that is our goal. And the last thing we want, happens a lot, we're going to continue to educate, is when you get these patients through a small town or a smaller hospital that doesn't have the resources and capability to provide definitive care. Okay? To waste time in scanning and obtaining these studies for a patient they can't provide definitive care for. Okay? 50% of the time when patients are transferred, the trauma center cannot open the studies. Okay? When you have x-rays and CAT scans, they put on a disc, and if they don't send them with the right DICOM images, you can't open them when you get there. So then you end up repeating the studies. Okay? Sometimes it's dye load, not to mention cost and radiation. Okay? So, and then the other factor is delaying. Okay? I reviewed a case and a guy who was a rollover ejection, small town, Oklahoma, small town outside the metro. He had a pulseless leg at the scene. Okay? So error number one is he should have been a scene flight. Should have flown the guy from the scene. They don't. Who knows how long he was out there. So this guy went to small town, which is okay. They stabilized. He should have been flown on a helicopter immediately. This guy sat in the ED for 3 hours getting scanned from head to toe with a pulseless leg, and he arrested 5 minutes out from the trauma center, and died. Okay, so that patient, okay, should not have been delayed. Had he got to the trauma center, this guy's life probably would have been saved. So we're trying to preach to people with the trauma plan. We want to get people to the appropriate facilities to take care of their issues, if not stabilize, and work on getting them out of there as soon as you can, and not delaying care to get unnecessary testing. Okay. So our mission statement supports a statewide system is to create a regional system for optimal care for all trauma patients, ensure the right patient goes to the right place, receiving the right treatment in the right amount of time. And based on readily observable and measurable factors. Okay? What are populations of people that are really kind of concerning, that you want to heighten? You may not have very physical or clinical evidence of issues, but you may be a little concerned when they're hurt. Geriatric population. Okay? Obviously, the amount of geriatric population, the amount of falls that occurs every day. Okay? We had an auto pedestrian accident. I had an 80-year-old person hit by a car, that was triaged and taken across town. There were 3 blocks of the trauma center. So they went to this other facility and got transferred to the trauma center. So you always want a higher instance of injuries in some of these populations, the younger population, the pediatric population, the geriatric, the pregnant people. Okay? And so triage at the scene of the injury is real important. Okay? Other things you have to take into effect. We talked about their age population, geriatric injury, scene-related stuff. If it's bad weather, if it's icy roads, okay? Transporting a patient on an ground ambulance on an icy road is kind of something tough. Sometimes you can fly those people. Or vice versa, you can't fly because of weather and you go by ground. So you need to know scene-related issues. This right here is what it looks like. This is the Region 8 Level 2 Trauma Rotation Schedule. About 8 years ago, this was about 10 years ago, this was developed to try to send the less critically injured patients around the metro. Okay? OU is a level 1 trauma center. They're supposed to take care of the sickest of the sick. Okay? The level 1 trauma patients. In this call schedule, this shows who's on for each day. Sometimes OU is on for level 1 and level 2. Okay? Sometimes they're backing themselves up. So this was a level 2 rotation schedule that's been in place, and actually right now we're kind of in the middle of changing things around the metro, and hospitals are going to kind of not like the changes. But what we're finding in some of the data in the last several years is that OU is still getting 75% of the traumas, the level 2 trauma patients, even when they're not on call for level 2. So kind of a problem. So what we're going to try to do, what this call schedule is for, and I'll kind of read what it says. It says, these are kind of some notes and rules about how these trauma patients come. It says, when on call, each hospital provides orthopedics, neurosurgery, general surgery, facial trauma, hand, both adult and pediatric, and anesthesia, or arrange for coverage from another hospital. This schedule is for unassigned priority 2 patients with single system injury or at risk for injury, but currently stable and picked up by IMSA here in the metro. Okay? 2005, ISO priority 1s were assigned to TREC, but now all as of 13, all the priority 1 neurologic injured patients, all these head bleeds, these patients with a single system neuro injury are going to OU. Okay? But this talks about other orders, talks about rules about going through TREC, trying to make sure everything's established. But here's the thing, each hospitals provide care for established patients. Stable patients have requested a facility. So this is for unassigned patients, so you don't belong to a hospital. That's where this level 2 patient goes. You can be a level 1 trauma patient with a stab wound to your abdomen, okay? With a gunshot wound to your abdomen and say, I want to go to hospital X, okay? And the ambulance service is required to take you to where you want to go, okay? So patient choice trumps everything, okay? Which stinks. These paramedics, if you could say, hey, my hospital is this place, even if it's a facility that doesn't have the capability to care for it, that's their hospital they want to go to. The paramedic's job is trying to educate that patient. That facility is not a good choice for you. You're better served by going to the trauma center. But patient choice trumps all. So the call schedule that we have is for unassigned, stable, level 2 trauma patients. Okay? As a result of the study, matter of fact, I'm meeting tonight, they're hoping about the first year to change this level 2 schedule to the level 2 schedule is only going to be effective for hand, face, and maxillofacial as far as where to go to on the call schedule. Everything else can go to the closest assigned. So what happens, for example, say you're out in Midwest City and you have a femur fracture, and it's an isolated femur fracture, and Mercy's on call. They're going to drive you past all these hospitals that go to the level 2 on-call facility day. So now, what the proposed changes are going to be to take these stable level 2 trauma patients to the closest appropriate facility, unless it's a hand, face, or neuro issue. So we're trying to alleviate all these trauma patients from OU to try to eliminate them taking on. It's like they're getting 75% of the level 2s on days they're not even on call, which is kind of crazy. So these are kind of some changes that are coming out. We're probably going to change here by a little after the first of the year. It says region 4, but it's actually region 7. Tells rotation schedule. St. Francis, even days, odd days. These are trauma triage definitions for the trauma patients, kind of how they base what they call a trauma. This patient's different initial response to injury trauma triage is an exact science. Current patient identification criteria do not provide 100% sensitivity and specificity. You're going to have over and under triage in patients. You want, if you have to decide on the safety, you'd rather have over triage than under triage, okay? We get these trauma calls, 43-year-old male, unresponsive, and you get there, he's unresponsive to English, okay? Or, 47-year-old guy, head smashed between wall and bumper, brain matter coming out there, he's got a scalp laceration, okay? Had a guy that was out at the fair, he's walking around, they come in with a gunshot wound to the foot. So he's walking around and, here's this loud pow, looks down, he's got blood in his shoe, got a shot in the foot. It was the fire wrapped him up and hauled up, lights and sirens, and it was a decubitus ulcer that busted his foot. Okay, so there's over and under triage, okay? Over triage, you can accept over triage, but under triage you can't, okay? When you get a report from a paramedic that someone has a GCS of 2, okay, the lowest score is possible is 3, you're like, all right, what's going on here? You have heightened awareness. So the whole purpose of this triage scenario is try to put the patient in a category, put you in a box, okay, where do you fit, all right? We'd rather have over under triage than under triage, okay? Priority 1 trauma patients are patients with high blunt injury or penetrating injury causing physiologic abnormalities or significant single or multi-system anatomical injuries. These patients have time-sensitive injuries requiring resources or a designated level 1 or level 2 or level 3 trauma center. These patients should be directly transported and stabilized. Okay? So physiological compromise criteria. So obviously all these people who are stabbed, gunshot wounds, stab wounds, those are easy. Okay, level 1. Okay? This kind of breaks it down in vital signs. Hemoglobin compromise, hypotension, systolic blood pressure less than 90, sustained tachycardia, cold diaphoretic skin, respiratory rate less than 10 or greater than 29, lower GCS. This kind of breaks everything down into priority 1 and priority 2 patients. There's a couple other little forms afterwards. And again, this goes and talks about certain populations. And then you have medic discretion, okay? That may not fall in some of these categories, but medics feel that, this is a high energy accident, okay? Other things we think about is, death in the car. Okay, another person, individual was died, or ejection. So these are kind of things that help you prioritize trauma patients. Anytime you do a motor vehicle crash on a patient, you should always document were they restrained, unrestrained, airbag deployment or not, loss of consciousness, death in the scene, okay, were they mobile, paramedics called, police called. These are things you should always document. Okay, you get these little things of everything you ask in these car accidents. If it's a fall, how tall a fall? Sometimes you have to ask 10 questions. You can ask patients the same question 10 different times and get 10 different answers. So sometimes you have to focus. Okay, also time. Okay, how long were they down? When the last time they were seen? Because time can be a big factor. Okay. And this is essentially the triage guidelines and transport guidelines on every list 2. You can go through it, but kind of breaks down how you categorize a patient in priority 1 or priority 2. This is for pediatric, less than 16. At OU, in the state of Oklahoma, until about 2 years ago, all of the pediatric and adult trauma patients were going to the adult tower. Okay, they're initially seen by the trauma team. Okay, the trauma team is made up by the Department of General Surgery. Okay, there's PAs, there's a nurse practitioner, I think, and there's general surgery residents and general surgery attendings and trauma surgeons. Okay, until about 3 years ago, all pediatric and adult trauma went to the adult tower, evaluated by the adult trauma team. If they're either admitted or discharged. If they're admitted, pediatric surgery would come over, evaluate the patient. The pediatric patients are transferred to children and admitted and watched from pediatrics. This last year, Children's is starting to take some level 2s via ambulance. Okay, so they're trying to start to take some of those there. The problem you get is when you get these families, sometimes you have a car full of a family. There's 2 adults and a child. Splitting the families up is sometimes very difficult. Taking the child across the street, taking the adult over here. Social and family dynamics are kind of tough sometimes. The problems we're getting into. And these are inter-facility issues. Okay, obviously we deal with a lot of transfers around the city. We're kind of trying to police. So a lot of times these hospitals, because trauma doesn't pay, you're not on call for a level 2. Say Southwest is on call, and a car accident goes to Mercy, and some of these orthopedic specialists are like, hey, I'm not on call today. Oh, even though they can take care of the issue, they can take care of the injury, or the general surgeons will say, hey, we're not on call, let's shift it to whoever's on call. We've had to police a lot of that, because if it is truly an EMTALA violation, if you have the care and capability to care for the patient, you transfer that patient to another facility, if somebody turns you into the state, it's a $50,000 fine to the provider, okay, and the hospital. Okay, so we've tried to get people out of the mindset of, hey, just because it's not your day, the patient's there, you have the capability to take care of the patient. The problem is sometimes you get these statements, oh well, I don't feel comfortable taking care of that. And it's kind of a fine line, you know. On one hand, if you have a general surgeon that doesn't take care of trauma patients, you know, if it's truly factual, he doesn't take care of it, but you best serve them somewhere other people do. The other side of it is that you can't, it's hard to validate some of their statements whether they're comfortable taking care of some of the issues and injuries. Last thing you want is moving patients around, okay, from facility to facility trying to get care. Sometimes people will bounce around twice, 2 and 3 times, sometimes getting the appropriate facility. One of the big topics here in the state has been helicopter transport. We have more air ambulances, okay, and fixed-wing aircraft in the state than most states do, okay? This last year actually helped get legislation and regulating some of the air transport. I'll take that in a second. But air transport started back in the military, okay? Costs, crashes, conflict and results. Lots of people say that it's not beneficial for air transport inside a 60-mile radius, okay, of where you're trying to go, unless there's prolonged scene time, okay, extraction time. You have people who are trapped, and it takes a while to get them out. Those are ideal cases when you can fly inside the 60-mile range, okay? But inside 60 miles, there's really no benefit of flying helicopter and getting ground there quicker. By the time they take off, they land, they get back, and they go. The ground ambulance is faster. The next problem is overutilization. I mean, you wouldn't believe the amount of people get flown. It's like a $15,000 charge to get an ambulance. You get somebody that has a stable injury, gunshot wound to the foot that has no neurovascular problem. Just simple things that people are being flown are ridiculous. These air ambulance services, they offer a family plan. $65 a year in case you get caught in an accident and you need to fly. When these were first coming out, people like calling the air ambulance themselves. Hey, I got stepped up by a cow in my pasture. I'm paying for this. Come pick me up. Seriously, it's crazy. So it's actually now it's passed law. So one of the things that was happening around our state is these air helicopters, they have the capability to show real-time GPS tracking of where they're at. And we have a bunch of ambulance services in the metro and in the state, and they were refusing to share that information. Because if everybody didn't share that information, it was an unfair advantage for these companies to not show where they're at. Not everybody participated, kind of all or nothing type of thing. So what was happening was, and it's much better. For example, a case review. 16-year-old kid walks into an ER, accidental .22 shot to his chest. Okay, small town ER. ED doc does a great job. Her and a nurse. She intubates the patient. She puts in a chest tube, he arrests, she codes him. You know, it's one nurse and one doc. Their clerk is getting an air ambulance. So they're in a town, it's 15 miles north is helicopter company A. Below is 15 miles the other direction is helicopter company B. So the clerk calls for one. They don't tell them that the ambulance, or the air ambulance they're calling for is already out on a call. All right, we'll still got one coming. I sent one from 90 miles away, okay? So what these helicopter companies are trying to do is keep it in their own business, keep it in their own system, okay, instead of doing what's right for the patient. So, you know, this last year I set up a big meeting with all the trauma regions, all the people involved, and we actually got the state to pass in their EMS rules that these helicopter companies have to show, with their state regulations, have to show EMS. So this year, actually, January 1, we have real-time visualization of where these helicopters are, right if they're out of service, screens are available. Because it gives people, you know, the last thing that we want to do is delay care, okay? Trying to get these people help. So EM Resource is a computer system in every ED, okay? And this shows helicopter, but it also shows who's on divert, who's not taking patients, caution for certain things and issues around this. Any hospital shows their stuff, but they also, this shows, you also look at air ambulances. So this shows if they're available or busy. You look on the map, it shows hospitals. You see hospitals in green there. You see little helicopters, red and green, they're available. So it gives you an idea where you can, to see where the nearest available helicopter is to get the patient to the right place at the right time, okay, using minimal resources. So that's trauma care. So what happens, so when a trauma patient shows up at the trauma center, you get a page, okay? 42-year-old male, car accident, fall. They come, they're evaluated in the emergency department. Some ED physicians are very active in trauma care. Some will come in and just kind of assume the airway. Some will say, hi, you got it, okay? So at the trauma center, the patient is evaluated by the trauma team. If they're admitted, the trauma team admits this patient, and they care for them from admit to discharge, okay? You talk about our lack of resources in the state. If you don't have funding, okay, if you don't have insurance, you would not believe the amount of traumatic brain injury patients we get, okay? If you don't have insurance, you'd stay in our hospital until you're good enough to go home and do outpatient care, okay? And, you know, we had a guy with a spinal cord injury. He was hitchhiking from Florida to California, down by the river by the boathouse, climbing up a tree looking for the bus station. He fell, he was a quad. I took care of this guy every day for a year, okay? I saw this guy every day for a year. Now, we send a lot of our insured patients to rehab facilities across the state, and they have what they call a kind of a charity care case. We did so much business, they agreed to take one without funding. But you know, you have these patients that are sitting in your hospital that are just taking up resources because they don't have insurance and nowhere to put them. So our state does not have a lot of resources for traumatic brain injury patients. So one of the things we really been trying funding for. Trauma fund set up from the tobacco tax. So the trauma fund is actually, we get some money to fund our trauma system from tobacco tax. 2 years ago, we had $5 million sitting in that got brought from the state when they delegated it. It's kind of a legal thing, but we had money that they used to disperse and pay hospitals. So if you take care of a trauma patient, you can fill out a form and essentially get reimbursed for some of your care. Well, we had a bunch of money kind of left over, paying quarterly, and it got reappropriated by the government. So now we're dispersing funds monthly to hospitals to fill this out. So that's kind of trauma care in our state. Any questions about trauma care? All right. Let me tell you, you guys are so blessed to have this program. Dr. McNeil, this guy, he's been doing this for 20, how many years, Dan? 20 plus?
Almost 30.
Showing your age. I mean, you guys are so blessed to have him here directing the helm. He knows what works and doesn't work. And you guys have the support of your college and the faculty here to help you guys learn. And, so blessed. So take advantage of every opportunity you have to learn. Evaluation and treatment of vascular injuries. Potential orthopedic emergencies, obviously open fractures. Do all open fractures go to the emergency room or go to the OR? Yes or no?
Yes.
No. Do fingers and toes go to the operating room? No. Okay. Lots of fingers and toes. Okay. You can have what's considered an open fracture. Okay. Of the fingers and toes don't always go to the OR. It's up to the orthopedic surgeon. Yes, all these long bones. Yes, they do. Okay. So it's kind of a tricky question. If you have a crushed finger or a crushed toe and it's open, doesn't mean it necessarily has to go to the operating room. It's dirty, it's contaminated, it's big, it's in your amputation, it may go anyway. But not all not all fingers and digits and toe open fractures go to the operating room. Okay? Had a guy went hand surgeon this guy had a chainsaw and his thumb was hanging off. He's like, just bend it back up. And he was dirty, contaminated. I'm like, no, I'm not sending this guy home. So sometimes you have to stand your ground. You're out practicing, okay, when you're consulting the surgeon, okay? Don't want you to send a patient home. They're not seeing the patient, okay? They're not seeing the patient. So sometimes you have to stand your ground when they want to do something, send a patient home, it doesn't need to be sent home. So sometimes, you're a PA, you're standing up to a surgeon, okay? Sometimes you got to put your foot down and do what's right. So open fractures, irreducible dislocations, okay? Vascular injuries, amputation, compartment syndrome, unstable pelvic fractures, okay? The big thing about unstable pelvic fractures is people can lose 2/3 of their blood volume in their pelvis, okay? So hemodynamic instability, these people can get really sick and crumpling in a heartbeat. Multiple injury patients, spinal cord injuries, displaced femoral neck and talar neck fractures, okay? The vascular injury, the clock starts ticking. And that's a problem sometimes some of these trauma patients. If they're out by themselves, they're ejected from a car or underneath a car fell on them, you don't know how long they've been there. You don't know sometimes how long they've been hypoxic or hypotensive, okay, or ischemic, okay? Sometimes you don't know all these issues, and so sometimes you really got to really push and ask, try to pound the paramedics for questions and answers before they leave. Sometimes they try to hurry up and get in and get out, but try to get all the information you can, utilize your resources. So irreversible damage occurs with vascular injury after 6 hours, okay? Increased incidence occurs with, fractures where the proximity of the vessels to the bone, tearing of the vessels at the joint, superficial location of vessels, okay? Getting laceration of the wrist right here, radial artery, okay? Those can be a big deal. Arterial injuries associated with fracture or dislocations. Clavicle fractures, kind of rare, being subclavian artery. 90% of clavicle fractures are non-operative, they're kind of simple, little displacement. Sometimes you get these clavicle fractures where it's really angulated, and some of the fragments are really sharp and pointing downward. It's very rare to get a subclavian artery from a clavicle fracture. Shoulder fracture dislocations are rare again, but can occur axillary artery, supracolumnar humerus fracture, brachial artery, elbow dislocation, brachial artery, pelvic fracture, gluteal and iliac arteries, femoral shaft, femoral arteries, distal femur, and knees. So popliteals are kind of the big one when you get distal femur fractures and knee dislocations in the tibial shaft. I had a lady last week, sweetest little Hispanic lady, not English speaking, she's visiting family, here for 2 weeks from Mexico. She has severe degenerative joint disease, bone on bone, she walks with crutches. So she walking up a step with her crutches, fell backwards, and the family, of course with a translator, but really good. The family said she fell backward and her leg was turned all the way around the other direction. Family got out, twisted her leg, pulled it back, and then she came to the ER 14 hours later with a awful distal femur fracture, which you're worried about possible surgery. But she did not end up having that. But man, toughest lady I've ever known. All right, so this is kind of a distal femur, kind of the same thing. Okay. 3% of long bone fractures can occur with a vascular injury or dislocation. Fractures with gunshot wounds, up to 38% of them can have them. These dislocations, 16 to 40% can have a vascular injury. Okay, if you see an X-ray like this, that is bad. Okay, that's a knee dislocation right there. Okay, so blunt trauma, high energy, low injury, iatrogenic cause of vascular injury from a procedure. Okay. Blunt trauma with 27% amputation rate versus 9% for penetrating trauma. Why is that? Okay, with blunt injury, everything is sheared, muscle tissue is sheared, vessels are sheared, as opposed to a kind of clean cut, penetrating trauma. Types of vascular injuries, you can get a spasm, you get intimal flaps, subintimal hematomas, lacerations of the vessels, transection, thrombosis and occlusion, maybe fistulas. I have a friend who had some complications of a surgery, was on bypass for like 18 hours, several days later developed a total clot of the lower leg, ended up having to get it thrombectomy and ended up losing the anterior compartments of her leg. She's our age. Crazy. Consequences of vascular injury, obviously blood loss, ischemia, compartment syndrome, tissue necrosis, amputation, death. Okay? This is a brutal, nasty injury. Trauma center, you see these every day. Okay? Their soft tissue is sheared, it's open, muscles are flayed, and frayed open, okay? Obviously, that wound's going to the ER, regardless if there's an open fracture or not, it has to be opened up, okay? But sometimes it's kind of tough, you know, when you have people that come in, and sometimes you see this obvious mangled extremity, and sometimes you focus on this mangled extremity, okay? You have to look at them from head to toe, okay? Because lots of times they're so focused on that open fracture, their leg is killing them, okay? They're not telling you they have this flank hematoma from a retroperitoneal bleed from, you know, okay, from a kidney laceration, or their belly might not be hurting that well. So you have to focus, do a head to toe examination. Don't just focus in on some of these very obvious musculoskeletal injuries when people are in accidents that can have multiple trauma, okay, whether it's a motorcycle accident or a car accident or a fall, okay? So prognostic factors, the level and the type of vascular injury can help affect the prognosis. Collateral, they have collateral circulation, hypertensive and shock, okay? Definition of hypertension is systolic blood pressure less than what?
90.
90, okay? What are some signs and symptoms of shock? So hypertension, what else? Tachycardia? Okay, yeah, hypertension. So tachycardia. Sometimes they're sweaty, diaphoretic, sometimes cool, clammy, okay? Tissue damage, crush injuries. What do you worry about with crush injuries?
Compartment syndrome.
What are the other things you worry about with crush injuries? Parkinson's is great. What can lead to rhabdo? Okay, crush injuries, all muscle tissue or rhabdomyolysis, okay? And can end up the tissues, soft tissues and muscle tissues are broken down, the proteins they clump and they kind of get squished up in your kidney and cause renal failure, okay? So any crush injuries, okay? Car fell in my arm, car fell in my leg, car fell in my chest, car fell in my abdomen. So crush injuries, you worry about rhabdo in the back of your mind, okay? Oftentimes these people in a rhabdo, burns, a lot of times, burns also get rhabdo. What color is your urine going to be in people in acute, very evident rhabdo? It's going to be orange. It's going to have bright orange urine. What's something that can give bright orange urine that mimics people on a peridium? So people with urinary tract infections, you have bright orange urine. Warm ischemia time, patient factors, okay? This patient that came in with this open fracture and has peripheral vascular disease, okay? They've already had FIM-POP bypasses, okay? Sometimes other comorbidities and problems can determine prognostic factor for vascular injury, okay? We see these all the time in the trauma center, these degloving injuries, foot is mangled, okay? Speed is crucial when you're back these patients. You want to resuscitate them, a complete rapid evaluation, and urgent surgical treatment if needed, okay? When you guys get out in practice, and I'll show you later, documentation is so important, okay? If you didn't write, you may have done it, but if you didn't document, it wasn't done, okay? The only thing that's going to save your butt in court is documentation, okay? Don't document something you didn't do, okay? You at least for that, you know, we had a trauma sheet we filled out, and our trauma surgeon hated, you know, kind of fill out the trauma sheet by committee. You know, one time, there was a trauma patient that came in, a guy had been down in his backyard, found down for 2 to 3 days. One of the ED residents, they said, oh, I saw the ears are clear, so I documented clear ears. The guy gets into the ICU and he got the maggots crawling with the ears. Obviously, he didn't look at the ears. Don't document an exam you don't do. But you have to be very pertinent in getting your nose in. Okay, so what would be review systems? What do we want to talk about in somebody with a neurovascular injury? What are some review systems we want to talk about? Okay, so you want to document, okay? Pulses, 2+, 3+, thready, absent, skin color, okay? Obviously, sensations intact, motor's intact, okay? You got to document a grade. You can't just say no compartment syndrome, okay? You have to document pertinent positives and negatives in any condition, okay? So document pertinent positives and pertinent negatives, okay? If somebody's looking at a chart of why you didn't go down the vascular trail, you need to document. They need to be able to read the chart and say, hey, I see why this patient didn't go down the trail to work this patient up for vascular injury. If it's not documented, there's no mind thought or know that you even thought of the injury or mentioned the injury. So when you're documenting, you have to be very important about documenting pertinent and positive review systems and exams. Immediate treatment. These people come in, obviously, with life-threatening, these big femur fractures and extremity fractures. We want to try to splint them, control the bleeding. All this muscle tissue, we want to try to cover up with saline, moist saline dressing to keep the muscle tissue drying out, okay? Help preserve the muscle tissue, splint them, okay? One of the important things you got to do before you and after you splint a patient is what? Got to check the pulses. You want to recheck the pulse and neurovascular status after you splint the exam, okay? Sometimes the vascular status, neurovascular status can change after you splint. Okay, they have no pulses, then you splint them, We got good pulses, or sometimes it can go the other direction, okay? So you always want to document pulses and neurovascular check before and after spleen. We had a lady that came in one time with a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the abdomen. So we were rushing her, getting ready to rush her. We put IVs in, getting ready to give her fluids, getting her rushed to the ER. Let's get an x-ray, see where the bullet is. So you'll understand in an AP or a PA view, seeing that bullet, all you can tell really is where it is from left to right, okay? It looks like the bullet's sitting in the middle of the spine in the AP view, but you don't know where it is from anterior to posterior, correct? Okay, one use no view, right? So, like, oh wait, let's get another x-ray. So we got a ladder x-ray. And so the astrocyte bullet fragments are in L4, L5 vertebral space. So what is the one thing you want to document on this patient before you put her to sleep in the OR?
Function.
Neuroexam, okay? Because that patient, okay, obviously she's hitting her abdomen, okay? But if that patient went to the OR, and after they got her out, she was paralyzed, okay? If you didn't document she had neuro intact before you went to surgery, okay, you're on the hook for her being paralyzed, whether they could prove it or not. So getting a good neurovascular exam of these patients is really, really important, okay? Diagnosis, how we diagnose vascular injuries. And this lady ended up having bowel injuries. She got an inferior vena cava, had a kidney laceration. She made it. Very, very lucky. So how do we diagnose vascular injuries? Physical exam, obviously, top thing. I got y'all hooked up with a Doppler. You've already done ABIs, right? Y'all understand what an ABI is? Okay? When you take a blood pressure, you're taking someone's blood pressure for a vital sign, okay? That's an opening pressure, okay? The reading you get is an opening pressure. When you're doing ABIs, that's a closing pressure. Y'all get the difference? No, okay. So when you do, here, we'll get there in just a second, okay? Duplex scanning, so ultrasounds, arterial and venous, arteriograms, and explorations, how we diagnose. Those are studies we use, okay? Careful exam and high index suspicion. Physical exam, we're looking for major hemorrhage, hypertension, arterial bleeding, expanding hematoma, ultradistal pulses, pallor, temperature differential between extremities, injury to anatomic related nerve, okay? I had a guy 2 days ago, he was on a trailer and the wood fell through on the trailer. Board came up, hit the nose, and then he fell through. And he hit his thigh on the lateral metal portion of the trailer. So kind of a shearing injury. I mean, he came in, he had a hematoma that was already, I mean, it looked like he had a cantaloupe for hematoma on his outer lateral thigh. Crazy. It was all hematoma. He didn't have a vascular injury, he didn't have an orthopedic injury. But it's crazy how big some of these hematomas can sometimes start expanding. You know, that wasn't even arterial. So asymmetric pulses, okay, so a patient comes in with asymmetric pulses, warrant Doppler examination, determine ABI. Absent pulses, those people need to go to the operating room, okay? You don't want to delay doing this testing. So absent pulses, they need to see a vascular surgeon. When you're not working, if you're working in the ER, you need to know where your resources are, where your nearest neurosurgeon is, where your nearest vascular surgeon is, okay? Time is important. And a lady came in this last year, flailing. She comes in screaming, ah, ah, you just yell and scream, you're like, oh my gosh, what's going on here? Okay? Psych stuff. She's been throwing up. I've been throwing up. Okay? Oh, it's awful. And she cannot sit still. She's rolling and writhing on the bed. I have belly pain. My legs hurt. Okay? So you're sitting there, and this lady's got minimal pulse in her right leg and no pulse in her left leg. So I'm just like, what the hell's going on here? So she's flailing. You know, it's like when you're first trying to get pulse and people are flailing, it's hard to get pulses sometimes. You're trying to get a Doppler on this lady, you know, she's flailing. Her leg wasn't cool, but it was hard to get a pulse initially on that left leg. So our sonographer was doing a case, and our CT scan was there. So the one thing you worry about her having all this belly pain, extremity stuff, is mesenteric ischemia. Okay? So we went to do a CT scan, we had a CT scan in like 3 minutes. So they were like, do this quick CT scan, we did an ISTAT, make sure being cracked was okay. Did a CT scan, and she's got no flow to her left leg and like 20% flow to her right leg, and her bowels ischemic. So, you know, so we're getting this lady out of there, and poor choice of words. I told a nurse, I need this lady to flip out of here, like quickly, you know, trying to save her life, you know. And one of the family members, oh, why don't you want to take care of my mom? It's like, it's not that we don't take care of her mom, we're trying to save her life, and time is the most important thing. For evacuation, she doesn't lose her leg, she doesn't die from mesenteric ischemia. So it's kind of one of those things, but man, it's crazy. So sometimes people flailing, you know, like I said, she came in complaining of belly pain, nausea, vomiting. She really wasn't complaining of leg pain. She really kind of hammered it down. So absent pulses, gotta go to the OR immediately. So ankle brachial index, okay? So you have a Doppler, you have gel, okay? And you have your blood pressure cuff. So so when you're doing a blood pressure cuff, you're taking someone's blood pressure, okay? You got your stethoscope in the brachial, okay? And you're pumping it up, and you're pumping it up, and you're pumping it up, and you let it off. When you start hearing that pulse, that's an opening pressure, okay? When you're doing ABIs, okay, it's a closing pressure, okay? So you got the blood pressure off, you got your Doppler, you're listening for the pulse, okay? You get the pulse, you pump up the blood pressure cuff, you don't hear anymore. That's a closing pressure, okay? So did y'all get comfortable doing the ABIs? It's kind of tough sometimes. You know, some people you can get, you know, as far as like doing a DP and posterior tibialis, some people really don't have a very good, some people don't really have a good pulse, a good DP and a posterior tibialis. But it's a really, really neat study, okay? People that come in with a gunshot wound to the leg or a stab wound to the leg and you're worried about, you know, you're worried about a neurovascular status. If they have a normal ABI, you know, if they have a 1-to-1 ratio, you're pretty good, okay? And obviously you'll run that by one of your orthopedic surgeons or your vascular surgeons. Hey, do you want a further study? Do you want an ultrasound or do you want a CT angio is kind of where you go. But an ankle brachial index is one of those deals that's a really great study to help you evaluate. But also know your anatomy, okay? Knowing your anatomy, know where the vessels are, okay? If I stab one across, you know, the lateral thigh, it enters an exit here, all the vascular is kind of posterior, okay? So knowing your anatomy, knowing where vascular status is will kind of help you determine what you kind of need to do as far as workup. So ankle brachial index, you have appropriate cuff size, Doppler of the brachial artery, okay? Record right and left arm pressures, okay? And then on the lower extremity, you do it over the DP and the posterior tibialis, okay? So your ankle is the numerator and your extremity is the denominator, okay? So ABIs, you know, obviously a ratio of 1-to-1 is normal. We like to say it's greater than 0.9. It's kind of equivocal, okay? Kind of hard to tell. And obviously if it's 0.4 or 0.9, then there's some peripheral vascular disease you need to explore further. So Doppler ultrasounds. Man, it is tough sometimes. It is really tough sometimes getting the Doppler pulses on these patients, especially when you got a lot of stuff going on in the room, noises and everything. So sometimes you have to be very patient and sometimes a little time consuming getting these studies done. Obviously, just because you have pulses when you have arterial injury. Doppler ultrasound for nevus location. So abnormal ABI is less than 0.90. Does not define the extent or level of the injury. Abnormal values were the further evaluation. Okay. Can you get an arteriogram in most hospitals? Depends. You know, do you have vascular or interventional radiology to do these arteriograms? Okay. So the most common, you know, if we're doing an CT angiogram is really what's most commonly done in addition to ultrasound. Okay. CT scan is very quick, very easy to do as long as you have a kind of a newer model scan that can get the slices and the speed. And it's all about getting the IV contrast to the extremity, okay, and a good time. So you have to have a good IV and enables to do these delays and studies to evaluate, okay. And ultrasound, okay. So ultrasounds can tell you it's non-invasive, it's safe, it's rapid, reliable for injured arteries and veins. AV fistulae, obviously pseudoaneurysms, okay. Requires technicians, so obviously you have to have ultrasound. Y'all think ultrasounds in-house 24/7 at hospitals? No. Trauma centers, yes. Okay. But no, it's ultrasounds out, so you got at least they have a 30-minute time to respond, so you don't have ultrasound in-house. So angiography, obviously, is the gold standard. Okay, an arteriogram is the gold standard. Locates the site of injury, characterizes the injury, defines status of vessels, proximal and distal. What's the drawback to angiograms, whether it's CT angio or a regular arteriogram? Dye. Okay, dye hurts what? Kidneys. Okay, so obviously if people have renal issues, those are things that you have to be careful with. You know, sometimes you got to hydrate them. You know, you can't give Mucomyst or acetylcysteine as a medication. Give sometimes it's kind of renal protective. If you know people can give IV contrast in these people, you got to know if they're GFR. Okay, your bone filtration radius to determine whether they can get the CT scan or not. A lot of times it's up to the radiologist to determine whether they think the GFR is adequate enough to hold it. Okay. Sometimes some of these pelvic fractures and other injuries, sometimes people get an arterial bleed. Okay. And so sometimes they can embolize. So the interventional radiologist kind of a little coil they can go in and embolize the vessel. Sometimes you get a little tiny splenic artery, little tiny granule. If you guys ever see on a CT on a radiology read if it says contrast extravasation or an active blush, that indicates that there's bleeding, okay, active bleeding. So that needs to kind of heighten your awareness. If you see contrast extravasation, okay, or contrast blush, that means active bleeding, okay? So angiography is expensive, it's time consuming, you know, these interventional radiologists and vascular surgeons are not in-house, okay, to kind of do these type of things. So again, it's something that it's kind of difficult to get. Renal burden from dye we talked about. Obviously people can get anaphylaxis. There's less risk of allergy with some of the newer arriving contrast agents, you know, but pre-treating these people, you know, in the trauma world, you know, everybody just left McDonald's and have a full stomach when they come to get their trauma, you know, so they're not NPO. You know, in the ideal world, these patients, when you're doing an outpatient elective study, you know, and somebody, you know, you pre-treat them. I had a lady one night that had an anaphylactic allergy to IV contrast like 15 years ago. And she came in and she had signs of concerns or were about how to PE. So we ended up, you know, admitting her, desensitizing her with, you know, Benadryl and an H2 blocker and some steroids before we did the study, and she did fine. But you know, it's ideally, you know, you take patients who already like to be NPO for average. For trauma patients, they just left McDonald's or Carl's Jr. right after their accident, so it's not really possible. CT angiogram, good alternative to conventional angiography, good sensitivity, specificity, costs much more. Again, it'll delay revascularization. So if you have hard signs that they have, you know, pulseless legs, these things, you're not gonna get a CT scan unless you're told otherwise. Okay. So absent pulses, you're not gonna delay them going to the operating room, obviously, for a CT scan. Operative angiography. So when in the OR, they can shoot dye the vessels into it's an intraoperative angiogram to kind of see what the vessels look like, help guide the map of where they're going sometimes with vessels. Surgical exploration. Obviously, you know, if you have, you know, people that come in, you know, with a laceration to the wrist, and you see shooting, pumping blood, okay, that's arterial. So people at surgical explorations, people with arterial injuries, on exam, they have no pulse on exam or on Doppler, side injury parent, okay. These are people who are going to the OR. And here's kind of a little key to look off of: no pulses, injury office surgery, multi-level, you do angiography or duplex on their stable. Asymmetric pulses, get Doppler, check their ABI. JBI 0.9, attempting to observe these people. Okay, normal exam being observed. Continued evaluation. Okay, just because they may have a little intimal flap or a problem that's really not evident initially evaluating them. That's why continued examination, the exam can change. Okay, they develop some thrombosis or a clot or worsening vascular situation. Okay, so continued exams. Okay, whether it's continuous neuro checks, neurovascular checks. Okay, whether it's somebody for a vascular injury, head injury, continued reevaluation, documentation of their neurovascular and neurostatus. Okay. Continued evaluation, circulation, neurologic function, compartment pressures. Okay. Surgical considerations. The vascular surgeons determine who goes at what time. Sometimes if you have somebody has a very, very, very mangled extremity, sometimes they'll kind of go in and do like a temporary graft and like an external fixator and come back in and do a full one later. Fracture stabilization, salvage representation. This is kind of, you know, the surgeon determines lots of these things. You know, y'all know what an external fixator is? Okay, so a lot of times you have these people have these awful, awful, awful orthopedic injuries. And so what an external fixator is say I have a really awful multi-fragmented tibia fracture. So what they'll do is they'll put pins in the bone, and it comes out with a little loop, and they put a pin approximately distally, and they have a rod on the outside. And so the rod helps stabilize the fracture. So sometimes, if it's a really bad crush injury, they'll do an external fixator surgery to kind of stabilize the fracture and keep it in place, and go back later and do a formal operative fixation, you know, at a later date. But an external fixator is an external fixator device that keeps the bones and stuff intact, as opposed to like an intramedullary nail or pin. And obviously, you want to try to salvage every extremity you can. Fasciotomies, okay? If you know someone's had a vascular injury, they've been pulsed for a little while, they may not have compartment syndrome, a lot of times they've been ischemic for a while, and sometimes you'll do prophylactic fasciotomies. Okay? So, conclusion, potential disaster with every orthopedic injury, okay? It's uncommon, but be aware of injuries associated, okay, with distal femur fractures, okay? Knee dislocation, supracondylar fractures. Where in these areas you always want to think is there a chance the patient has a vascular injury? Time is crucial, height of suspicion, thorough physical exam. Kind of sit there. Any questions about some vascular injuries?
I have a question. What would you say is the PA's role on a trauma team and/or with trauma surgery?
It varies. It varies where you work, okay? At OU, you know, in general, when you talk to physicians who hire PAs, okay? Some people, it's just individual preference. Some people are like, hey, I like new grads, okay? I like new grads. They haven't been tainted with bad habits or doing things bad ways. Some people like, I want people with experience. Some people like, hey, I want to mold and teach them the way I do things, okay? You know, at OU, Dr. Albrecht, she knows everything, okay? She knows these patients frontwards, forwards, backwards. You know, we would take care of, we're at about 3,000 a year now. At that time, it was 2,000 trauma patients, me and her and 2 residents, trauma clinic 2 days a week, and 2,000 trauma patients a year. Now there's about 8 trauma attendings and 6 mid-levels, and we're taking care of 3,000 patients a year. These patients, you're taking care of them from admit to discharge. You're rounding on them daily, which, you know, not the funnest thing in the world sometimes, you know. But the amount of medicine you learn on trauma is so amazing, okay? You'd have patients that have urologic injuries, facial fractures, head bleed, orthopedic injuries. So you got 4 or 5 different services consulting these patients who are broken. And you're learning urology, you're in orthopedics, you're in neurosurgery. The amount of experience and knowledge you get. And you know, you can do whatever you want to do, okay? Now obviously you got to get your stuff done. You got 20, 30 patients on the floor, 20, 30 patients in the ICU. You got a lot of work to do throughout the day. But you can be as active as you want to be. Okay, there are days when I was taking care of traumas all by myself. They're in the OR doing other issues and things. And so you can be as active as you want to and be as gung-ho as you want to. You know, it's a place where they'll help you and they'll help you learn and help you teach. Okay? But you have to be a go-getter. Just talking to you guys on rotations. Like I talk about, this program you guys are awesome. This is an opportunity to learn for the rest of your life. You're building your education. So when you slack and you don't read, you don't do yourself, you're hurting no one but yourself. Okay? When you go on rotations, you may be on rotation with two medical students, or other NP students, or other PA students from other places. You have to be gung-ho and get every opportunity to learn you can. Get every procedure you can. If you're passive, and you sit back there, hey, somebody needs to be intubated. Anybody want to intubate the patient? And you sit back here, you just cheated yourself out of opportunity, okay? I mean, skills, chest tubes, lacerations, intubations, any procedure you get an opportunity on rotations. If you're passive and you sit back, some other student's going to steal that opportunity to learn from you guys. So you guys are going to have to be really gung-ho and take every opportunity you can to learn. But you can do whatever you want to do in the trauma service, okay? Obviously, it's a learning experience just like anywhere else. Obviously, anytime you're as a PA, I think what makes your job great is based off of the relationship you have with your supervising physician, okay? Some people's personalities, they want their hand held every time, okay? I'm not that person, okay? I don't want my hand held. But having a relationship that works with you and your primary care physician, okay? A trust issue, okay? You know, they'll give you, depending on where you're at, the range that you have is based off of their confidence in you and the relationship and the skills that you have and possess, that they feel comfortable doing what you're doing. So you can get all the experience you want working with trauma, okay? Any other questions? Vascular stuff. Medicine in general, use your gut, okay? People with pain out of proportion to exam, if you're not finding anything else, think vascular. A crazy story. We had a guy that's actually employed at our hospital at work, had a carpal tunnel surgery. That morning, he saw the hand surgeon, got his sutures taken out, drove to Tulsa, came back in 12 hours later. And he probably had bacteria that probably got inoculated from sutures, got removed. But this guy just pain out of proportion to exam. You're like, oh my gosh, this guy had carpal tunnel surgery and his suture removed today. 12 hours ago. You know, he had good pulses. He had good capillary flow. He had a normal nerves. And I'm just like, gosh, what is going on with this guy? You know, really, this guy's a big weenie. Like, really? So you do the arterial and venous ultrasound. Even though he's got a neural nerve exam, it's normal. So, talking to the hand surgeon, she's like, gosh, Brad, I don't know. I guess we can get MRI. This MRI, he's got a big surgical infection. Like, just fluid just came out of nowhere in 12 hours. Yeah, he goes to the OR, he's got an IV antibiotics for like 8 weeks. Through some greenish crap. But I mean, this guy had no symptoms 12 hours before. Pain out of proportion to exam is huge, okay? Huge. Red flag, use your gut, okay? If something's not sitting right, pain out of proportion to exam, you know, it's so easy. We see drug seekers every day in the emergency department, okay? Truck seekers get sick, crazy people